Dr. Gaeta,
Hey, Kenan. Good to see you.
how are you?
Really well.
Good,
Appreciate this time.
absolutely. So give me a sec here.
Sure.
So the first thing, well, first of all, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure
Any-
can.
okay.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests. With your host, Kenan Wesley Mason.
Of the show specifically, or if it was something in the wording of the description. I mean, they did put the video up, so maybe it was the video, but nonetheless, the video has been up since 2015 and is just now being flagged because of what they believe or what they have created as a community guideline of medical misinformation. It's a community guideline that the information presented in this 2-hour presentation is going to be harmful to the community. That's the notion. Harmful to the community. Let me turn this thing around. All right, here we go. So to continue, the notion is that we're incapable of making our own decisions, and that because of a guideline from a government agency, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the Food and Drug Administration, or the American Medical Association, they set guidelines that are passed in Congress or not in some cases, guidelines that only their information is valid. Only their information is valid. No other information could possibly be valid or worthy of listening to, even if it's from an esteemed physician such as Dr. Michael Gaeta, who the interview was conducted with, a brilliant physician and a man of intelligence, and understands that information like this is vital, and it's needed, and it's necessary, and it's true. And it's true.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Kinetic Hour. I am your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. Welcome one, welcome all, as we are streaming live once again. As we're doing a simulcast, streaming live on Instagram, streaming live on Facebook, and streaming live on LinkedIn. So welcome to all three platforms. As always, go to my YouTube channel and my Rumble channel, which is the Kinetic Hour, right here, the Kinetic Hour, and that's Kinetic, Kennetic, the Kinetic Hour. Subscribe, click thumbs up, click the notifications, leave your comments, leave comments regarding the comments, and tell everyone that you know to share these videos, as I'm always here to give as much information as possible. Also, go to my other YouTube channel, which is Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, for everything physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, psychological health, and everything in between. Thank you to everyone tuning in. As I always say, whether there's one person listening or 1,000 people listening, it doesn't matter, because my voice will continue to permeate. So thank you all for tuning in. And as you can see, my guest, and I've been waiting for quite some time to get this interview. So I'm glad he's here. He's a doctor of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, certified and accredited in multiple disciplines of health and wellness, such as dietitian-nutritionist and herbalist. He has over 3 decades of clinical practice and experience, has trained over 20,000 practitioners, and is active in promoting health choice and informed consent. He co-founded Acupuncture for Veterans, which provided free treatments in New York City. He's the past president of the Acupuncture Society of New York, earning awards for State Association and State Association President of the Year. He's also the founder of the Gaeta Institute for Holistic Health Education, which offers accredited certification programs and several online courses in natural functional medicine to upgrade patient care and the success of natural health professionals. His motto is always nature first and drugs last. And I'm glad that he's here. Please welcome to the Kinetic Hour, Dr. Michael Gaeta.
Kenan, great to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time out
Happy to be
grace
here.
the stage with me. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And before we get started, I'm going to go here because Dr. Gaeta, actually, I like to welcome him as almost like family, because we interviewed him, oh gosh, almost it's been about 10 years now.
Oh,
10
wow.
years ago. And as you can see here, this is from aim to put. Look how young he looks back then.
Wow.
And not that you and you're still looking fine
That
now.
was 19 years ago.
Yeah, right. This was on July 6th, if I'm not mistaken, July 6th of 2015.
2015, 10 years ago. 10 years
Yes. There you see my mother, Louise Hicks, and myself.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Gaeta was gracious enough to take the time out to give us 2 hours of his time. And at that time, we were talking about a Senate bill that was passed
Yes.
regarding inoculations and things of that nature. And that right there is part of the reason I showed the opening clip, because this specific interview here was flagged and banned from YouTube after I put it up on my YouTube channel. And so that's why I did that specific clip, because it was pretty much it was a shocker to me. So I did that clip right there, which was from 2022. And yeah, that clip was from 2022, and I did that. It just happened to fall on my birthday as well.
Oh, wow! Look at that.
So
how's your mom doing?
She's doing great. She's doing great. She's in Texas. She's in Texas right now.
Great. Well, please send my regards.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure she'll see this as well.
Yes.
And before we even get started, Dr. Gaeta and I have a few things in common that I just want to go over briefly. First, number one, we both have backgrounds in massage therapy.
Oh,
and massage therapy is where I started my journey in holistic health and wellness. Back in 2002 is when I first got started. The second thing that we have in common is that we're both musically inclined.
Yes.
Myself, I have a music background in music production and audio engineering.
Oh, great.
And Dr. Gaeta is kind of like the Beethoven of holistic health and wellness, as he's the classic pianist.
Yeah, I got my family back there.
Yes, and if for those of you that haven't seen Dr. Gaeta play the piano, it's a spectacle to see. When I first saw it, I was pretty surprised myself. So, And the third is that both of us are Geminis. So,
Oh, excellent.
yes.
So when is your birthday?
June 9th. June 9th.
Excellent. Mine's in 2 weeks on the 31st.
Okay. Oh, you're
That's
a May
great.
Gemini. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Excellent.
which is when that clip was when I filmed that clip, it just happened to
Oh,
fall on
okay.
it just happened to fall on my birthday because they flagged that film.
Yes.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
so thank you so much for being here. And regarding that clip, I do want to come back to that later on in the show because I do have some
Sure.
questions
Yep.
regarding some updates on that specific situation that
Yeah, a lot going
I
on.
was referring to. So we'll get back to that a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But the first thing I want to do is go back and get some insight, so we're all on the same page, and get some insight on how you got started and what led you to go down this journey into
Yes.
holistic health, because you started as an MD in the allopathic field, correct?
No, I started actually as a
You
piano
didn't.
player. No, I
Okay.
started in music, and then in the health field, started as you did in the massage therapy field,
Okay.
and then studied, practiced body work and Asian body work and nutrition,
Okay.
and herbal medicine, and then a few years later went to acupuncture school, and graduated that. Was it 29 years ago? So yeah, it was started with body work and nutrition, and then went on into more herbal and functional medicine and acupuncture.
Okay.
But yeah, I was originally a musician. That was my full-time career for many years when I was younger. And
Okay.
then it overlapped with the early years of my practice. And as my practice grew, I started saying no to gigs. I was doing entertainment gigs like in restaurants, lounges, private parties. I was kind of a lounge lizard, and taught piano and was a church organist for those 10 years as well. And that was wonderful. And but I felt like there was more for me to do in a more direct way of healing. And so I went to massage therapy school. I wanted to use my hands. I was a musician. That was kind of cool. Wanted to help people, wanted to use my hands, ended up in massage school, got exposed to Chinese medicine and was immediately felt at home. And then I just wanted to learn more about Chinese medicine. And then I did some advanced studies in Asian body work and then acupuncture, and went on from there. And what I found was a lot of satisfaction in being able to help people in this way. And the other thing was, while I was in school for massage therapy, it was a year and a half program, started in 1989. And I had a lot of health issues myself, even at the age of 19, and really got a lot of help from cleaning up my diet, getting acupuncture and bodywork treatment, taking herbal medicine. So I was just sort of immersed personally to help with my own digestive and other issues I had going on. And it really helped. It was hugely beneficial. Like everything changed for the better. And then I was like, wow, I think I want to keep going and learn more. Like, how did this happen? And so I set out to learn more about this field and to learn how to expand what I was doing with patients. I was getting chiropractic care, and along with body work and acupuncture and nutrition and herbs and all the stuff that I do today, except chiropractic. And really loved it and haven't stopped loving it. And then the school where I was trained, I was a pretty good student there, and they asked if I would teach. And so I started teaching in 1993. So this is my 33rd year of teaching. And so I was a faculty member there for 10 years, and then taught at half a dozen other schools of acupuncture and chiropractic, and started speaking at conferences, and just kind of expanded my teaching. And while I was practicing full-time in New York, where I grew up in New York City, and we had 3 clinics and 6 practitioners and a lot of good stuff going on, and I would teach weekend seminars. And then moved to Colorado 16 years ago, and then went to part-time practice and full-time teaching, and started teaching online, and that accelerated with COVID. But started teaching online with online courses 10 years ago, And in addition to the live in-person weekend seminars for
Yeah.
practitioners, which I did a lot of for about 25 years.
Hmm.
So it's been a wonderful journey, and just been very thankful to be able to pursue a passion which is, based in helping people. And it's just been, feeling very blessed to have been able to have this journey and path that I have, and really feel a responsibility, not just to keep working with patients as I do in the office, but also remotely by phone and video, but also training other practitioners who want to get good at this stuff. And so most of my week is spent teaching, and then I just see patients on Tuesdays.
Got it. Yeah, and I know the laws in New York when it comes to massage therapy are different than here in California.
Yeah, for sure.
I learned that real quick back in the day, that the laws are very different.
Yes.
I know in New York, massage therapy is looked upon as a really legitimate healing modality, as opposed to here in California. I'm not even going to go into all the stuff that is.
Well, I'll tell you, one good thing about the New York massage law is that somehow somehow this got built in, that you have to study Asian bodywork to get a massage license in New York. And I'm very thankful for that, because that exposed me initially to Chinese medicine.
Okay.
And then I was hooked. I'm like, wow, I want more of this. It had a kind of a spiritual foundation of self-cultivation and something of that nature, like a higher perspective. I really like that, because that was kind of how I was living. And so it all kind of, that was a wonderful thing. There's no other state in the country that has an Asian bodywork or some type of Asian medicine requirement in the law for a massage therapy license. So that kind of worked out great. And the school I studied at, New York College of Health Professions in Long Island, their whole focus was Asian bodywork, and they basically taught the minimum the state required in Western or European massage. And with their focus, like most of the curriculum, was more on the Asian bodywork side. So that was very good for me, and that really awakened something that felt very familiar and very congruent, and I was just interested in it. To study more about Chinese medicine.
Yeah, because for me, I followed in the footsteps of my teacher, who was a Reiki master teacher.
Oh, great!
So I was introduced to Reiki, and
Nice.
And I got the first degree certification while in school for that.
Okay.
And then I was introduced as well to Tai Chi as well.
Oh, great.
I was introduced to that, and I also became nationally certified through the National Certification of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork.
Oh, yeah, TMB.
So yes, so I had that certification for 8 years, and the thing is that I didn't pass my test the first time around.
Sure.
So
happens a lot.
Yeah, so I knew real quick that I really had to study a little bit more.
Sure.
And really go deep diving into a lot of different practices, modalities, physiology.
Right.
And so 6 months later, I took the test again and passed it. And then I had that certification for 8 years, which is, I think, the highest certification that you can get in the practice, or one of the highest.
Yeah, nationally, yes.
Yeah, nationally. Yeah. So I had that for 8 years. So it was really good. And so I started going into other practices, went into holistic psychology, which is what I do now.
Great. Oh,
so now, just again, so everyone's on the same page, I want to go over just some fundamentals,
please,
if we can, because you gave me this long list of topics.
Sure.
And so I just kind of started picking stuff.
Great.
I just started picking stuff. And
fabulous.
So the first thing that I want to talk about is just some fundamentals on how you define holistic. And when you say holistic, you spell it with the W at the front.
That's right.
For the body to be whole, if you will.
Yes.
So can you define what it is to be a part of holistic health, and then
Yes.
contrast it with what you call holism versus reductionism.
Yes. Yes.
Can you define the two and how they
For
contrast?
sure. Yeah. And it's not a dictionarily correct
Yeah.
spelling to add the
Right, right,
W,
right.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just what my teachers did, who founded that school. They wanted to emphasize the word whole
yeah,
and kind of added the W, even though, technically not in the dictionary correct, but
yeah, yeah.
certainly has become more in common use. And, that's just personal choice. You can spell anything the way you want. People choose different spellings for common words to
That's
differentiate themselves.
that's right.
But yeah, the two basic approaches to healthcare is, as you said, Ken, in holism and reductionism. And holism, is based on a principle that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, that we're not just a collection of parts. And in holism, that we're more than that. We're a human being. We have a human aspect, which is our physical equipment and the body, the emotional realm, and then we have and the mind, and then we have the being part of the human being, which is in my opinion, the divine, eternal nature that we all have, the being part, which enlivens the human. And I think the purpose of human life is to allow being to express through the human.
Hmm.
And so that's a basic principle, that we're not just looking at isolated parts in the physical body, but we're looking at the person as a being, a larger being with different aspects and levels of that.
Hmm.
And then, another principle of holism which makes it very different from reductionism is you start with what's right in a person. I remember I had a new patient come in one day, and boy, poor lady, she had just been through so much, so many health problems, and been to, a couple of dozen specialists and million tests and a bunch of medications, so much going on to try to manage her symptoms. And a friend of hers said, well, if you want to try a more holistic approach, go see Michael. And I said, well, how can I help you? And it was like, I took like 3-4 pages of notes. Back
Yeah,
then it was handwritten notes. This is, some years ago.
yeah.
And I said, is there anything else? Because I like to start with a broad, open-ended question. What brings you here? How can I help? And off she went. And oh, boy, I was just feeling like, wow, she's been through so much.
Yeah.
And, after a page of notes, is there anything else? Yes, there is. Another page of notes. Is there anything else? Yes, there is. And another, so now I'm like 3-4 pages deep of all these problems and diagnoses and conditions and complaints. Oh, is there anything else? She said, no, I think that's it. And this is like 20-30 minutes later, 4 pages of notes. And I said, now tell me what's right with you. What's
Mm.
working with you? And she just had this stunned look on her face. She's like, nobody's ever asked me that before.
Right.
And because they always want to know, it's the diagnose and treat model, find what's wrong and attack what's wrong. But I said, no, actually, there's a different philosophy here. I like to start with what's right in a person and build on that. So she said, I don't think there's anything working. She just spent, 20-30 minutes talking about what was wrong.
Yeah.
I guess her perspective was like, everything's wrong. There's nothing right. And so I said to her, and as a psychology practitioner, I'm sure you'll see the usefulness of this. I said, well, do you have a roof over your head? She's like, yeah, I got that. Do you have food to eat? Yeah, I got that. So you have clothes to wear? Yeah, I got that. You have people in your life who care about you? Yeah, I got that. I said, I think you're doing pretty good. That's a good
Ah, right.
foundation.
Yeah.
And so, she was kind of tearing up a little bit because she was getting emotional, because like it was the first time anybody had ever suggested to her, even remotely suggest to her, that there was something right with her, that there was something that was working with her. And it was such a shift for her, because she had seen so many doctors, so many specialists, so many this, so many that, her entire consciousness was focused on what was wrong. And I said, well, we're not going to ignore that, because you got a lot going on. There's tools we have to help your body heal itself. And we want to really keep in mind what's right so we can build on that. So
Mm.
that's sort of another principle of holism, is we start with what's right, but also we want to help improve self-healing, self-repair, help the person find their own health. I don't heal anybody. I'm a facilitator. Health comes from the top down and inside out. And that's, just what I believe. I facilitate that process and help to get rid of the barriers to that. And then in holism, Kenan, we big difference with reductionist medicine is root cause resolution. Unfortunately, modern medicine has really devolved reductionist medicine into managing symptoms with drugs. And there's very little consideration given to the lifestyle causes, which is most of the causes of most of the things that people have. 80% of healthcare costs are really medical costs because we don't have a healthcare system. We just have a disease management system.
Right.
80% of that money, $4 trillion a year, goes for chronic disease. And chronic disease is lifestyle disease in almost every case. So we really focus on root cause resolution, trying to get to the root of the issue, but also get to the causes of health.
Yeah.
So we're looking to increase that. And then, this was from day one, my first class in massage school in March of 1989. They said, my teacher, did the introductory philosophy class of healing. And it was called, Principles of Holistic Medicine or Holism versus Reductionism, something like that. She said, the way we teach here is it's do as I do. Like we expect you to get yourself healthy. Right. And if you smoked, boy, they were on your case until you stopped smoking. If you were obese or unhealthy in some way, they were on, hey, take care of yourself. You got to be a good example for your patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was drilled into me literally from day one. I really appreciate that. And then there's a principle which has become the motto of my school and clinic, which is nature first, drugs last. And drugs aren't bad. Pharmaceutical products are not bad. They're not terrible. They're just massively overused. We have 4% of the population consuming 50% of the world's pharmaceuticals. That's insane. With the worst health outcomes of any developed nation at the greatest cost. And I think that's going to start to change now with Bobby Kennedy and others looking to help people get healthy again and not just drugs for symptoms all the time. But this lifestyle medicine approach is very important. And then finally, kind of the last principle of holism is preventative care. It's easier, better, cheaper to stay healthy than to get well after you've become sick. So this whole preventative and wellness care approach with early treatment is really front and center as well. And this contrasts with reductionism, where you start with what's wrong and isolate and separate each part of the body. Each symptom, each system is a separate thing. You separate, isolate. Reductionism means you reduce things to the smallest possible component. And the focus is particularly on using drugs to manage the downstream symptoms of disease rather than the upstream causes of disease. So that's a big difference. So this whole drugs for everything approach hasn't really worked. Makes a lot of money for some people, but it doesn't really improve human health. So those are some of the differences, I would say, with this drug-oriented symptom management approach compared to the holistic approach, which instead of seeing the body as a machine, we see the body as a garden. And if you tend to the garden, give it plenty of sunlight, clean water, good food, just like your garden in your house, your backyard, or your front yard, it'll thrive. Life naturally wants to thrive and evolve and grow. And so you just need to give it some of those basic elements, and life will do the rest.
I think it's amazing how society has kind of evolved into, because you mentioned how in the garden we need, the plants and the trees need sunlight and water. But when it comes to when it comes to the human being, when we suggest, hey, drink extra water so you can flush all these toxic things out. Go out and get some sunlight so you can produce some vitamin D for yourself.
Right.
They run from that like the plague.
Yeah.
Right. And
that
so
is changing.
Yeah, it's changing. It's changing, and it's been changing. It's a slow change, but nonetheless, it's changing. And it does contrast with standard allopathic medicine, which does
Yes.
look at the symptoms or managing symptoms
Yes.
for a lifetime for most people,
Yes.
literally a lifetime,
Right.
versus again looking at the body as a whole organism versus looking at
Yes.
it as a machine, like you said,
Mm. Yes.
or treating it like a machine.
Right.
Just give it some oil and let it go. Um,
Or
we need
replace this part and replace that part.
yes, because most people take care of their cars better than they take care of themselves.
That's right.
You know,
Yes.
most
Yes.
people take care of their pets better than they take care of
Mm. That's
themselves.
for sure.
When the oil light comes on in the car, they take it to the shop right away.
Hmm.
But when our symptoms start to, because symptoms are like a fire alarm going off.
It's a message.
It's like a high alarm, an alert.
It's
It's
a
like
teacher. Yeah.
it's like an alert system, that you
Something
see
needs
on
attention.
TV, the emergency broadcast system where they
Yes,
where
that's
they
right.
fire off this sound.
Yes.
That's how the body is, and typically we're aware of it, but we don't respond to it as
Mm.
we should right away. We kind of let it linger and let it linger and let the symptoms
Yes.
manifest more and more and more and more and more and more until until we start getting the aches and the pains and the
Right.
inflammation and the arthritis and all of these different symptoms that can be mitigated otherwise if we just kind of take the time to be more self-aware.
Yes.
So when you talk about some of the principles, you have 7 principles of holistic health.
Yes.
Now, were some of the principles that you just mentioned
Just covered
are
all 7.
okay? So there you go.
Yeah,
So
and it's a good point that you raised
yeah,
that that oil light is a good one. I use that that analogy sometimes.
yeah,
That um, the oil light goes on, you have 2 choices. You can do the sensible thing, which you described. Go get some oil to put in the engine. The other option is to cut the wire that goes to the light. And in either case, the light goes out.
right,
And what you do with a pharmaceutical is you're cutting the wire every day
yeah,
that goes to that light. So the light goes out. Oh, yay, the symptom went away. My blood
hmm
pressure is lower. I don't have high blood pressure anymore. Well, actually, you do.
yeah,
You're just suppressing that symptom with a drug. So my job is to add oil and not just cut the wire that goes to the light. And that's a big difference, with that. But I am hopeful, people, since I started practicing 35 years ago, attitudes have definitely changed. People are more even, some physicians are, much more open than they used to be
yeah.
to different approaches to getting well. So I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too. Especially in a social media era, we see more and
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
We see more people putting more holistic approaches, more holistic information.
Mhm. Yes.
We have a lot more holistic practitioners
Hmm.
that are coming to the forefront to literally challenge the status quo,
Yes. Yes. That's a
and
good thing.
which is a great thing. Um, Next thing I want to go into, speaking of us being more self-aware,
Yes.
I have this right here. I don't have the tape anymore, but I did keep this for my own.
Oh, sure.
This
Yep.
is a
pH
chart
test
right
strip.
here for us checking our pH
That's right.
balance.
Yes. Yes.
Back in the day, they had these commercials for secret deodorant. Strong
Oh,
enough for a man, but pH balance for a woman.
yes, yes. Good memory. I
Yeah.
remember that.
So can you go over the importance of our pH, our potential of hydrogen,
Yep.
and also the contrast between us being alkaline versus acidic, and also why it's important for us to have a specific acid balance with the alkalinity.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. You have
Yes.
kind of silly books like Alkalize or Die and the Alkaline Solution and the Alkaline Miracle and all of this sort of stuff. and most of it's nonsense. But the main point is this: different parts of the body have a different ideal pH. And basically, the body tissues are acidic, and body fluids, like blood and bile, are a little alkaline.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem approach is saying that everybody is too acidic and everybody needs to become more alkaline,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, we're both massage therapists. You wouldn't do necessarily the exact same treatment on every single person who came in the door, right? We would
Correct.
adjust
Correct.
and tailor the treatment to that person's needs
Correct.
and what we found under our fingers or on intake. And that's a sensible approach with pH as well. We wouldn't, just as we wouldn't say, oh, Kenan, everybody is too acidic. I'm sorry, everybody's too alkaline and everybody needs to acidify. You never say that.
Mm-hmm.
So the sensible approach, and you got your test strips there, which are great,
Yeah.
is to assess, like do what every practitioner of every discipline does, is make an assessment and then customize the treatment to that. So a simple thing, basically, there's a few ways you can check pH. One is with those test strips, first thing in the morning before you eat or drink, put it on your tongue and see what the pH is. It should be neutral at 7. pH of 7 is neutral. And then your first pee of the morning, you just pee on one of those strips, get a different one. And that should be acidic between 5.5 and 6.5. You can also look at a blood test for carbon dioxide, bicarbonate in the blood, should be in the mid-20s, like between 22 and 28. And you can look at your anion gap, which is another way to check blood pH along with CO2.
Mm-hmm.
So that now we've just checked saliva, urine, and blood. And if you do a stool test, some labs will tell you your stool pH. And that's another way to check. So it really depends. The pH is like, well, what part of the body are we talking about? The blood should be slightly alkaline at 7.4, roughly. And but urine and stool should be acidic to prevent infection at 5.5 to 6.5. And then saliva neutral at 7. The problem with the alkalize everybody approach is that you can be too alkaline.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that, among other things, is you'll be predisposed to infection. And the reason is this, and this was published in 1958 by Dr. Jarvis. Vermont Folk Medicine was his book, where he recommended everybody just preventatively consume apple cider vinegar and kelp and raw honey as health promoting practices. And he pointed out, which is true, it's been validated a lot of times since 1958 in the medical literature, that all infections, pathogens, there's about 1,400 human pathogens out of 1 trillion microbial species. That's most of the natural world is quite safe. Only 1,400 pathogens out of 1 trillion microbes. And they all thrive, almost without exception, in an alkaline environment. So the body makes sure that these epithelial or interfaces with the external environment are all acidic. So your skin, the acid mantle of the skin, has a pH of between 4 and 5. In women, the vaginal canal should have a pH of about 4. This is acidic. Mm-hmm. The kidneys and stool, urine and stool, acidic pH. All of the stomach, the most dramatic example, an active pH when you eat of between 1 and 3. This is all in part to prevent infection. And folks who just alkalize, I've seen this countless times, dozens of times, and also in my students in seminars. I'll tell you a story about that. They start getting infections all the time. Once they make themselves too alkaline, they have a big problem. I had a chiropractor came to one of my seminars in Omaha, Nebraska. And he's, I've been using this alkalizing water machine, this Kangen machine, for 8 years. And I said, he said, when I started using it, I felt great. I had lots of energy. I just felt better. It was great for a couple of months. And then I sort of, then it just sort of leveled off. But for the last few years, he was getting infections every month in different parts of his body: sinus infection, gut infection, skin infection, lung infection, everything infection. urinary infection. And just wouldn't stop. And he was conflicted because he was a chiropractor. He didn't want to take antibiotics, but he was not happy having basically infections constantly in his body. We checked his pH just with the same test strips you have.
Yeah.
And his saliva was 8.3, which is extremely alkaline.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm sorry, that nobody advised you to check your pH before you manipulate pH, and then to monitor it to make sure you don't go too far acid or too far alkaline, but you're way too alkaline. And that's why you're getting sick all the time. And I've seen that many times, but it's just this whole primitive, simplistic, everybody should do this, everybody should do that. And that's just not how healthcare works. You make an assessment first.
Yeah. With the pH, when people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when cancer patients have chemotherapy and things of that nature, the body, because the body is about keeping you alive at all costs, no matter what it takes to do it. So because of the treatment that pretty much kills everything in your body, so the body has to compensate and bring the alkalinity back up. And so you don't die of too much acid from the chemo treatment. So, a lot of hospitals have these aromas of people, the ammonia smell and all these things.
For sure.
Because of the high alkalinity. We're talking about 10, 11, 12, which is way too much. But again, the body, being as magical as it is going to do anything in its power to keep you alive while you're going through these treatments. So the alkaline acid balance is very important. You can't be too much of one or too little of the other.
Exactly.
You kind of have, and the body knows what it's supposed to be at all times, as long as you give it the necessary fuel, if you will. Necessary fuel, the necessary mineral content, the necessary water. I've done things like food grade hydrogen peroxide, which is of a high pH, and for those that haven't done it, you have to be really careful with it. You have to dilute it because you mentioned the skin, and if you put it directly on your skin,
that's gonna hurt.
Oh yes, yes.
You gotta start.
I've been my own guinea pig with a lot of this stuff.
No, that's good. It's good. That's
over the
very
years.
Traditional approach as you experiment on yourself.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about that. So the pH balance is a great way or a great indicator. Is a great indicator on whether our bodies are up to par with our overall health and wellness. Keeping the body in check, keeping the organs, because like you said, all organs have a different structure and different. There's you have your whole body, but then you have your organ system, which are different individual bodies, your liver, your kidneys, the heart, the lungs. They all act in their own way for the purpose of functioning the whole, like you said, the whole.
That's right.
So when we talk about pH balance and certain parts of the body, and I've known a lot of my clients over the years being a fitness trainer. I've had clients that have had thyroid issues and adrenal issues. And so if we can go into that just for a sec, because a lot of people that I've come across have had thyroid issues. I've heard about it over the years a lot. What is the overall fundamental purpose of the thyroid and the adrenal glands, and how can we optimize their function?
Right. Good question. And I just want to roll back to something you mentioned about cancer and chemotherapy. And this is a subject we talk about a lot. We have a cancer course at cancercourse.com where folks can learn more. But the main cause of death with patients on chemotherapy is infections. because of the immunosuppression from the drugs. The chemotherapy drugs, typically the most common ones, some of the more old school common chemotherapy drugs, will attack any rapidly dividing cells, which could be a cancer cell, but also there are other cells that divide rapidly. They reproduce, they turn over rapidly, like hair follicles, and so your hair falls out. Like your gut lining, so you get diarrhea and heartburn. Like your bone marrow, so you become anemic and have a weak platelets and a weak white count, and you're more prone to infections. So that's the main cause of death in chemotherapy patients. Second main cause of death is blood clots.
Okay.
So if we can keep the immune, so we could get into a discussion as like how effective is chemotherapy. The stats are pretty dismal. In almost every type of cancer, that chemotherapy actually meaningfully improves quality of life or lifespan. But anyway, that is a common thing.
Yeah.
When I work with patients on chemo or on radiation, big part of what we're doing alongside those treatments is to keep the immune system strong. So they don't develop a potentially fatal infection, and they stay strong and resilient and don't have all these side effects. And thankfully, we're able to do that. I've had many patients who went through aggressive chemo and had very few side effects because we were able to strengthen their body enough that they didn't suffer these debilitating side effects. So there's ways to mitigate or reduce the side effects from these treatments.
Okay.
So with that, yes, about thyroid and adrenal. Thyroid gland is super important. This butterfly-shaped gland in the neck comes from the Greek word for shield. And it has several functions in the body. One is it regulates our metabolic rate, so the rate at which the biochemical reactions happen in the body is strongly influenced. Our basal metabolic rate, especially, strongly influenced by the thyroid. So that's sort of a big thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, is that. Now the thyroid also has a lot to do with protein synthesis, and the body is basically a pile of protein. Other than water, most of it is protein, and so protein synthesis is a second function, in addition to the first thing of regulating our basal metabolic rate and basal metabolism. That's why you can check your temperature with a liquid thermometer in your armpit when you first get up in the morning. Before you get up, actually, when you're still laying in bed, check your armpit temperature for a week, average it out, and that'll tell you pretty accurately how your thyroid is doing, because that basal temperature that you return to while you're asleep is set by the thyroid. So you can see how your thyroid is doing looking at basal temperature.
Okay.
Protein synthesis affects everything, and how well your body repairs itself, and a lot of other things. And then the thyroid also helps the adrenal glands and other hormones work better. So it helps with, it's a hormone buddy or a co-hormone in a sense, with certain types of hormones that relate to blood sugar and stress response, including the adrenals, how we manage fats in the body. So the thyroid helps that process out. It also produces a hormone that will lower your blood calcium. So that's calcitonin, comes from the thyroid. And if your blood calcium gets too high, you'll make more calcitonin to bring it down. Thyroid also increases your oxygen use in all over your body. And that's why brain fog, like I just feel kind of fuzzy and tired and depressed and I just don't feel good, is a lot of that is a low thyroid, especially in women, where thyroid problems are 8 to 10 times more common than in men. And then finally, the thyroid is critical in the development of the fetus. So when a woman gets pregnant, her own thyroid function is very important until the baby grows its own in the development of that baby in the belly. So it's actually, amazingly, it's the most common cause of preventable brain damage in the world is iodine deficiency. So fetal development and child development after the child is born is critical, thyroid hormone, for mental, physical, nervous system, bones, muscles, all kinds of things. Their development is heavily dependent on good thyroid functions. That's why before women get pregnant or have another baby, I really try to, optimize her thyroid function so that the baby will be as strong as possible and she'll have the easiest possible pregnancy.
Hmm.
So those are a few functions of the thyroid.
Right.
And the way we check it is with a blood test, with that armpit temperature test, and
Yeah.
with a hair analysis. And then we'll know exactly how the thyroid is functioning. And then if it's great, great. And if it's not, then usually it's underactive is the most common one. And
Right.
that can be corrected naturally with diet and supplementation, herbal medicine.
Yeah, because we hear a lot about hypothyroidism,
Yes,
and
that's right.
I've heard that a lot.
It's
And
huge.
as far it is huge, and with the adrenal glands,
Yes,
most people here in America are in fight or flight mode
that's
all
right.
day.
That's right.
We're in this kind of beta brainwave state
Yes,
all day,
yes,
and this affects our adrenals over time.
for
So,
sure. Wears
so
them out.
yeah. So, can you talk about that for a bit? What is the like you mentioned the function of the thyroid? Can you talk about the function of the adrenal gland,
Yeah.
and again how we can optimize its function as well?
Yeah. Adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys at around the 12th thoracic vertebrae. And so, kind of the lower thoracics, like above the lumbars,
Yeah.
just above the lumbar. And the adrenal glands are very important. They're sometimes called suprarenal glands because they sit on top of the kidneys.
Yeah.
And these, there's two parts to the adrenals, the shell, which we call the cortex, and then the middle part, the core part, we call that the medulla. So the adrenal cortex is probably the most famous. But the adrenal medulla is very important too. So kidneys in general adrenal glands have a lot to do with our ability to manage stress. And what you pointed out was so important, that if we're in that sympathetic dominant fight, flight, stress response most of the time, then we're just going to wear out the adrenal glands. They'll initially get larger because of the stress, and then they'll just shrivel up
Yeah.
and atrophy, especially with poor diet, insufficient nutrition. So that's kind of a big deal. And the stress response we can think of as our resilience, our ability to handle change and stress. The adrenals are the seat of that, although all of the endocrine glands, the hormonal glands, are very closely related. They're not in isolation. So if any of them get tired, the others will rise to compensate and meet the demands that gland isn't able to do. That's why most folks with a low thyroid also have low adrenal, and vice versa, because one goes down, the other kind of rushes in to compensate and make up for that.
Right.
And then that one will eventually get tired. And then it goes all the way around the whole endocrine system.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing. The adrenal glands have a combined weight, both of them, of only a little more than a quarter ounce,
Mm.
both combined. And over your whole lifetime, you're only going to secrete maybe a half teaspoon to a teaspoon total over the whole lifetime of adrenal hormones. So these are very powerful hormones that you don't need a lot of, but they're very powerful.
Yeah.
So managing stress, managing inflammation, managing blood sugar, maintaining your immune system, and aiding in your kidney function. Those are the main functions of the adrenal glands in general. The cortex, that's going to help more specifically with blood pressure, stress. That's your cortisol, your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. All of that is adrenal cortex. The adrenal medulla is mostly has to do with the stress response, the sympathetic nervous system. So that's your adrenaline, your noradrenaline, and your dopamine are made in that middle part of the adrenal glands. So that's very closely associated with the sympathetic nervous system, as opposed to the rest and relax digest part, which is parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic,
So,
yeah.
all of the glands just need good nutrition, and then they just work better. And a lot of the side effects of poor nutrition is you get an adrenal, a whole glandular depletion or insufficiency, where they're just sort of tuckered out from not having good fuel. And then this, reduces our ability to manage stress. We're tired a lot. We sleep and we're still tired, or we're wired and tired, where we're tired but we can't sleep. All these kinds of things. Most people, as you point out, in the stress response most of the time are really in a bad way, and until that gets reversed. In other words, get more sleep, get better nutrition, and then those glands can regenerate.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the word cortex and medulla, because it reminds me of the brain. And
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Brain health is important.
Sure is.
You mentioned brain fog, and you also mentioned gut health as it relates to the entire immune system and the whole microbiome.
Oof,
Um,
huge.
And this is another thing that's heavily overlooked as far as, again, overall health.
Yes. Yes.
Something as simple as, gut health. When we get an infection, we tend to take too many antibiotics,
Yes.
which it's all in the name, antibiotic.
Anti-life. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, that's right. And so we deplete our quote friendly flora, or our all the bacteria that's in
Yeah,
our gut lining.
that's right.
So how can gut health create better longevity within us as human beings, and why is gut health so important?
Yes. Well, it's a great question, Ken. And Mechnikov, the famous Russian scientist, said a century ago that death begins in the colon. But it also has to do with upstream of that. So when we look at gut health, it starts really in the mouth with chewing your food well.
Right.
And it continues with good stomach acid. Now, here's the crazy thing. It was just what you said before. When we're in a chronic stress state or sympathetic state, parasympathetic just shuts off, because our nervous system thinks we're in a survival situation, like, thousands of years ago, like running from a wild ox or something like that, where our life is in danger and we're in the wild and there's a wild animal that wants to eat us, and we're in that fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy thing when that's what's happening. But in that situation, digestion just shuts off, because digestion, there are 5 areas of the parasympathetic. We talked about fight or flight, the stress response, and sympathetic, but parasympathetic relates to the rest and relax and digest and detoxify and repair. And, so if and it's like a seesaw, as one goes up, the other goes down. If you're in a sympathetic dominant state, parasympathetic just turns off. And this is, one of the reasons why people have a lot of poor digestion, is that their nervous system is set in a survival mode, a stress response, and is therefore not digesting anything. It's not that vagal stimulation. It's just not happening. And so we have here in Colorado a school called the Institute for Mindful Eating or something like that. And they based a whole school on this principle. Like, you have to relax to digest your food. Like, when you're eating, be relaxed, pleasant conversation, no stress, so that your parasympathetic can wake up and you can digest your food. And so it's a very important principle. So a lot of people, as a result, have low stomach acid. And then the food just rots in the stomach. The esophageal sphincter won't close without sufficient acid. They get heartburn, reflux. The food just sits there. They get exhausted after they eat. They just feel like they're not digesting anything. And that's because oftentimes there may be a nutritional deficiency, but they are just not digesting their food because they're in a chronic stress response. Then you go further down into the small intestine. That's where absorption happens, most nutrients. And that's also, enzyme production from the pancreas and the wall of the small intestine also is a parasympathetic event. And bile production, bile flow, also a parasympathetic event. And by the way, for the guys, testosterone, a lot of guys are concerned about that, is a parasympathetic hormone. So you don't really make testosterone if you're chronically stressed. And so a lot of times the issue is chronic stress, not, oh, I can't make enough testosterone. There are other factors there, but I don't want to get too far afield.
Yeah.
And then finally, we get into the colon. And this is a very wonderful, special place where we've got 3 or 4 pounds of intestinal flora, 1,000 different species. There's 100 that are the most common, or even that, 25 to 50 are the most common. But this microbiome has become very important. A lot of research done on this in recent years, and understanding that the gut is sort of the second brain. That gut feeling is very literal.
Yes.
And I don't know if you want to get into vaccines, but the original Andrew Wakefield study from 1998 that got him in all that trouble. He didn't claim that MMR vaccine caused autism. Actually, the paper said we are not claiming that MMR is associated with autism. That paper simply said, and this was just a case series of about 10 kids who had autism, and they evaluated the kids as gastroenterologists, and they all had gut inflammation. And they treated the gut inflammation with a gluten-free, dairy-free diet and steroids. That's what they do in Western medicine. And that took care of the gut inflammation and the microbiome. And then their brain inflammation went down dramatically, and their symptoms improved a lot within a week or two. So that's the gut-brain connection. An inflamed gut can lead to an inflamed brain. And it's not the only cause, but it's something that has to be kept in mind. Now, the problem is when we get down into the microbiome in the gut, we eat things, mostly antibiotics, which are very damaging, extremely damaging. On average, 83% of the country gets 1 antibiotic prescription per year. That's insane, knowing how harmful it is. Plus, we get residual, constant low-level antibiotics in our food. And then in America especially, we are constantly exposed to glyphosate or Roundup, which is an antibiotic in addition to being a herbicide. And that destroys the gut flora as well. I put up a cartoon in my seminars of the mom giving her son a bowl for breakfast. And she said, well, we ran out of cereal, so here's a bowl of sugar instead. And then the other comic was they went to the pharmacy to fill the antibiotic prescription. And the pharmacist, sorry, we're out of that antibiotic, but don't worry. There's a McDonald's down the street. If you have a burger and a milkshake, there's plenty of antibiotics in that to take care of this infection. So it was a comic strip. But we get a lot of residual low-level antibiotic and glyphosate exposure in our diet, and this has been destroying the microbiome. So really, my current recommendation in my own practice and for myself is really never to take antibiotics unless there's a life-threatening bacterial infection. Where and that's a real thing. I mean, people can have MRSA or flesh-eating bacteria or bacterial meningitis, encephalitis. That can kill you. And if all the natural approaches don't work, definitely take those antibiotics so you don't die. But in other situations, it's kind of a bad idea. And there's a natural solution at least 99% of the time. I mean, in 35 years of practice, there's only 2 times, and that was many years ago, I don't think it would happen today, where the patient actually needed antibiotics. And I recommended that they see their doctor. But all the other times, this is thousands of infections in thousands of patients over 35 years of any kind of infection, and they resolve usually faster than with the antibiotics with no side effects using natural therapies and natural medicine. So it's a very important thing that you're pointing to, which is looking after the health of the microbiome, and in part, daily consumption of fermented foods like apple cider vinegar. I have a tablespoon a day myself. Other fermented foods, sauerkraut, beet kvass, or kefir, yogurt, grass-fed A2. All kinds of things can support the health of the microbiome, which helps everything. Helps the immune system, inflammation, the brain, metabolic balance with blood sugar. The microbiome affects everything.
Yeah, I got to meet Andrew Wakefield,
Oh, great.
some years ago
Wonderful guy.
at the Health Freedom Expo here in Long Beach.
Oh, great. Yes.
And I
Wonderful
think it was,
man.
yeah, oh yeah, real nice guy, real nice
He
guy.
is very smart.
And you know, so yeah, he's definitely been one of those um, scholars that's had his name kind of drug through the mud
Exactly.
in mainstream media.
Yep. The
Um,
mafia went after him, the medical mafia.
yes, yeah, and I got to see in great detail how um, people that really want to see health improve, how
Yes.
they're kind of demonized in the media.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Andrew Wakefield was one of those people.
That's right.
Um, and also, you mentioned autism
Yep.
and the inoculations,
Yep.
which I say inoculations on purpose because, you know,
Avoid the
I've had,
censor.
yeah, you know, it's
Why
crazy that,
can't?
you know, we have to kind of, I mean, again, going back to health freedom and health censorship,
Yes.
it's really big. But you mentioned autism. Uh, Back in 2016, we interviewed Dr. Rebecca Carley,
Oh, great.
and
From New York.
and
I spoke with her when I lived there. Yeah.
yeah, and she made what was called the, and I've been trying to find her too for a few years.
Hmm.
She made a protocol called the Hippocrates Protocol,
Hmm.
and
Interesting.
she put up $10,000 of her own money and said,
Yep.
if anybody on the planet can prove me wrong on my protocol that
Yeah.
heals autism, I
Yeah.
will personally give you $10,000. And
Hmm.
that was in 2016. So it's been almost 10 years and no one's come forward as of yet. No one has
Wow.
come forward
Wow.
because you know, no one wants to make the distinction between especially for children
Yeah.
being inoculated and them developing what's called autism,
Yes.
because the numbers have increased over the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
huge.
and
Yes.
and no, and standard allopathic medicine, they don't want anyone to believe that there's no way that you could possibly distinguish that the inoculation is what caused it, like it
Yep.
just kind of popped out of thin air, and the
Yeah.
child just happened to develop autism all of a sudden
Yeah. Yes.
somehow.
It's a good point. Vaccines are the greatest cause of coincidences in the world.
Right, you
They
know.
really are.
So
Yeah. So, and that's a great question. And what is that? Was there
no, no,
anything
no.
else?
I'm no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to things like autism or people being inoculated,
Yep.
antibiotics. We know you mentioned Roundup and other pesticides or herbicides. We
Yes.
know that there's antibiotics and growth hormones in the dairy supply.
That's right.
So we're getting it from all angles.
Yep.
We're getting it from all angles.
Yep.
And you mentioned McDonald's and Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
Hopefully Robert Kennedy can convince the president that you're not going to make America healthy again by eating a bunch of McDonald's.
Yeah. Right. Right. He is a unique specimen. His constitution,
Oh
maybe it's just
gosh.
he's a very mission-driven guy. Like he eats garbage all day, and like he's doing pretty good. Here's
Yeah.
my Bobby Kennedy mug,
Yeah.
which says, "There's been no time in history when the people censoring free speech were the good guys."
Yeah.
So I'm a Bobby fan, and he's
Yeah.
in the midst of a very corrupt system that he's trying to clean up.